Have you ever felt like your contentment hangs by a thread, dependent on a text message, a social media acknowledgement, or a simple nod of approval? This sensation isn't freedom, it's a self-constructed prison, and ironically, you're holding the very key that could release you. Consider this: how much longer will you continue living to please others when you could be writing your own epic tale? In this exploration, I'll share with you transformative wisdom that could fundamentally alter your existence, learning to thrive without external dependency. I'm not suggesting isolating yourself in solitude or avoiding human connection. Rather, I'm advocating for building such robust emotional self-reliance that nothing and no one can disturb your inner tranquility. We'll explore 11 principles that ancient Stoic philosophers used to break free from the chains of external validation, fear, and approval-seeking, principles that remain powerful across millennia. If you're prepared to seize control of your existence and become the protagonist you've always searched for in others, let's begin this journey together. 1. Become the protagonist of your journey. Have you ever found yourself waiting passively for someone else to solve your dilemmas? Relying on others for rescue is like sitting in a sailboat in the middle of an ocean, holding the sail ropes but refusing to use them, convinced someone will eventually appear to guide you to shore. Let me be clear, no rescue party is coming. And contrary to what you might believe, it's not because others don't care about you. It's because this responsibility belongs exclusively to you. The ropes are in your hands, all that remains is for you to decide to use them. Consider this: do you think Artemis, the legendary hunter of Greek mythology, simply waited for someone else to craft her bow? Of course not. She developed her skills, embraced her destiny, and became the formidable figure she needed to be. You possess this same capability. You merely need to recognize that you already have everything required to be the protagonist of your own narrative. This brings to mind the words of Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who, despite being born into slavery, left us profound wisdom. It's not your circumstances that determine your happiness or unhappiness, but your interpretation of them. What you believe shapes your reality. If you're convinced someone else must rescue you for you to find happiness, you're placing shackles on yourself. But when you begin shifting that mindset, you'll discover you can be fulfilled, resilient, and complete on your own terms. Let me share a personal account. Once, I found myself completely immobilized during a challenging period with my partner. Truthfully, I expected my closest friends to rescue me from my emotional turmoil. I clung desperately to the hope they would reach out, call, or offer some form of support. But they didn't appear, and the longer I waited, the deeper I sank into emotional quicksand. I felt like a castaway on a desolate island, scanning the horizon for a ship that never materialized. Then, through chance, I encountered a volume that transformed everything. It was as though someone had illuminated a pitch-black room. Suddenly, I understood I had been approaching my situation from an entirely wrong perspective. It wasn't my friend's responsibility, or anyone else's, to rescue me. That responsibility was solely mine. It was a moment of profound clarity, like having blinders removed. I realized I possessed the tools to progress, but until that moment, I hadn't utilized them. During this process, I discovered the insights of Professor Nikolai Vasiliev, a renowned psychologist who emphasizes the dangers of external validation. The need for approval is a psychological trap. When you place your self-worth in others' hands, they become the arbiters of your identity. His words resonated with truth. For too long, I had surrendered control of my life to others, waiting for them to define my value. It was a difficult lesson, but also a liberating one. If you find yourself in a similar position to my past self, I suggest 2 approaches that can significantly transform your outlook. First, embrace complete responsibility for your choices. This isn't about self-blame, it's about self-empowerment. Stop waiting for others to take control for you. Ask yourself, what action can I take today to change this situation? Every small step matters. By accepting responsibility, you'll realize control has always been within your grasp. Second, practice daily self-affirmation. Dedicate a few minutes each day to repeating phrases that reinforce your autonomy. Something as simple as "I am sufficient" or "I possess the power to transform my life" can profoundly impact your mindset. These seemingly insignificant actions are like seeds. Initially they appear inconsequential, but with time, they grow and bear fruit in your confidence and self-esteem. Remember this: the hero you're searching for has always existed within you. You don't need external rescue because everything required to build the life you desire already resides within you. All that remains is for you to believe this truth and begin taking action. 2. Master your emotional responses. Have you ever felt like an overheated pressure vessel about to rupture? The water boiling furiously, steam building to dangerous levels, and everything threatening to explode? My friend, it's time to reduce the temperature, because here's an essential truth: you cannot continue allowing your emotions to control you. If you do, not only do you surrender control, but you also hand over the power over your well-being to others, and believe me, that's the last thing you need. Aurelius Magnus, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, expressed it with perfect clarity: the soul becomes colored by the hue of its thoughts. Consider this: if your thoughts are saturated with frustration, anger, or despair, what will your day reflect? Chaos, plain and simple. Aurelius faced plagues, wars, and betrayals throughout his reign, yet how did he navigate these tremendous challenges? He focused on what he could control: his mind. If he were here today, looking directly into your eyes, he would likely tell you, you determine which emotions you permit to govern your life. You possess this power of choice, don't squander it. Picture this familiar scenario, or more likely recall it, as it's probably happened to you. You're driving home after an exhausting day. Suddenly, another driver cuts dangerously in front of you, slams their brakes, and nearly causes a collision. Your heart races, heat surges through your body, and before you realize it, you're shouting inside your vehicle as if that would somehow alter the situation. Now reimagine this from a Stoic perspective. You take a deep breath and think, is this truly worth allowing it to ruin my entire day? The answer is clearly no. You maintain control, continue driving, and preserve your inner peace. Controlling your emotions doesn't mean suppressing them, it means managing them effectively. To help you develop this skill, here are 3 practical techniques you can implement immediately. First, when you feel anger or frustration building, pause. Imagine you're at a traffic signal. You don't proceed until it turns green, correct? Apply the same principle to your emotions. Count slowly to 5, breathe deeply, and give yourself that crucial moment to consider your response. That brief pause can make the difference between losing control and maintaining composure. Second, shift your perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter tomorrow? The answer is likely no. It's like becoming angry at a fictional villain in a film. You know it's not real, yet it still affects you. Changing your perspective is like reminding yourself it's merely a movie. Stop wasting precious energy on inconsequential matters. Finally, find a healthy outlet for your emotions. Feel like there's a volcano erupting inside you? Release that energy, but do so constructively. Take a brisk walk, write down your feelings, or speak to yourself as though you were advising your closest friend. These small actions not only release tension but also restore your sense of control without depending on external validation. Remember this: you don't need anyone else to calm your mind, relax your body, or tell you how to manage your emotions. When you learn to do this independently, you become stronger and more liberated. It's like being the captain of a vessel during a fierce storm. The winds may howl and the waves may tower, but ultimately, you determine the course. Because when you control your emotions, you control your life. 3. Develop comfort in solitude. Being alone should be straightforward, shouldn't it? Yet often it feels precisely the opposite. It's like being a smartphone desperately searching for a charging outlet because your battery is critically low. And while you continue seeking something or someone to recharge you, you forget one crucial truth: you already possess everything needed to function optimally. It's time someone told you this directly. Learning to be at peace with yourself isn't a punishment, it's a superpower. Let me share something I once heard from the renowned violinist Katerina Petrova. She confided that the most challenging aspect of her fame wasn't the pressure, the interviews, or the relentless touring schedule. Do you know what it was? It was that moment at day's end when the concert lights dimmed, the audience departed, and she returned alone to her hotel suite. Suddenly, she would transition from being surrounded by applause and adoration to a silence that struck her like a physical blow. Imagine this: alone, staring at 4 walls, with no one to validate how brilliantly she had performed. She described it as falling into an abyss. She would compulsively check her phone, turn on the television, anything to avoid being alone with her thoughts, until one day she recognized how dangerous this pattern had become. Because depending on others for emotional fulfillment might seem harmless, But fundamentally, it's a trap. Petrova didn't remain stuck in this pattern. She decided change was necessary. She learned to appreciate those moments of solitude, to listen to herself, to value herself without requiring external applause. She understood that if she couldn't be content in her own company, she would never truly experience freedom. Do you see? This doesn't just happen to you or me, it happens to everyone, even celebrated virtuosos. But here's the encouraging news: you can learn to be comfortable with yourself, and the sooner you develop this skill, the stronger and more complete you'll feel. Because when you become your own best companion, you no longer need others to fill that inner void. As Seneca once observed, the wise individual is sufficient unto themselves. This sounds empowering, doesn't it? But in practice, it's not always simple, because if you haven't learned to be at peace with yourself, every free moment transforms into an internal struggle. I'm certain this has happened to you. When you have 5 unscheduled minutes, you immediately seek something to occupy your attention. And let's not even discuss having an entire day to yourself. You probably start cleaning your living space, organizing belongings, or fixing things incessantly, just to keep your mind engaged. And here's what you're reluctant to admit: it's not that you lack time for these activities later, it's that you're afraid to confront your own thoughts. That's somewhat disheartening, isn't it? So I encourage you to try something different. Plan an entire day of solitude. No social media, no friends or family, no distractions, just you. Treat it as though you're meeting someone special, but that someone is yourself. Consider what activities would bring you joy, perhaps a tranquil walk, visiting a location you've avoided because no one would accompany you, enjoying a coffee while reading or writing. Do these things and observe how you feel during these moments. What you discover might surprise you. When you learn to be comfortable with yourself, your perspective shifts. You no longer feel that urgent need to seek external distractions to fill an imagined void, because you realize the void never existed. You've always had everything you need within yourself. Everything else, everything that comes from outside, is a bonus, not a necessity. So the next time you find yourself seeking something or someone to distract you, remember this: you don't need anything more than yourself to feel complete. 4. Release what burdens you. Imagine this: your calendar overflows with commitments you reluctantly maintain but don't know how to decline. There's always someone requiring your assistance, a meeting you cannot miss, or that call that simply cannot wait. Within your social circle are individuals who bring only drama and problems, rarely showing genuine concern for your well-being. Each day you confront the same unproductive habits: hours scrolling through your phone, postponing important decisions, allowing the world's noise to overwhelm you. Then there are your fears, constantly reminding you of everything that could go wrong if you attempt change. It's as though you're entangled in a net you cannot escape. But listen carefully: no one else placed that net around you. You're the one maintaining it in place. Do you realize this truth? You're carrying unnecessary weight, relationships that no longer serve your growth, commitments that drain your energy, fears that paralyze you, and habits that keep you stagnant. It's like attempting to run a marathon while wearing diving equipment. How much longer will you continue this self-sabotage? Let's be transparent: letting go isn't simple, I acknowledge that, but it's certainly not impossible. And you know what? It's among the most liberating actions you can take for yourself. It's like that sensation when you return home after an exhausting day and remove those constricting shoes that have been causing discomfort, that awe that seems to liberate your very spirit. Releasing toxic relationships, unproductive fears, and self-defeating habits is like removing those shoes, but magnified 1,000-fold. My friend, you might not appreciate hearing this, but someone needs to tell you: you cannot control whether someone values you, whether that toxic person in your life changes, or whether circumstances are ideal. What can you control? How you release what weighs you down. As Epictetus said, we control our actions, not what others do. And he was absolutely correct. As long as you continue clinging to elements beyond your control, you're surrendering your power to others. So ask yourself, who's really in charge here? The answer should be unequivocal: me. So how do you learn to release what doesn't serve you? Start by dividing your concerns into 2 categories. On the first list, write everything within your control: your decisions, your actions, how you allocate your time. On the second list, everything beyond your control: others' opinions, the past, and the expectations placed upon you. Now look at that second list and declare: this isn't mine to control. It doesn't belong to me. I release it. You cannot change these elements, so why continue carrying their weight? Focus your energy on what you can influence. Trust me, you'll feel immeasurably lighter. And I'm not just referring to worries. Consider those relationships that consistently leave you feeling worse afterward, that person who appears only to unload their problems but never listens to yours, that partner who disrespects your boundaries, or those friends who never celebrate your achievements. Letting go doesn't mean harboring resentment, it means prioritizing your well-being. What happens when you release these burdens? You create space for people and experiences that genuinely enrich your life. The same principle applies to habits. If there's something you do routinely that doesn't bring you closer to your aspirations, it's time to release it. It could be as simple as reducing compulsive phone checking or finally addressing that task you've been avoiding. Every small change accumulates impact. When you begin letting go, you'll realize you don't need anyone else to feel whole. You've always been enough. Letting go isn't losing, letting go is winning, winning space, clarity, and peace. When you release what doesn't serve your growth, you discover how light you can feel. So do yourself this favor, let go of what doesn't enhance your life, what weighs you down, what holds you back. Realize that you've always possessed the tools to move forward. You decide which burdens to carry and which ones to release. And believe me, when you make this choice, everything changes. 5. Overcome the fear of rejection. Let me share an ancient tale. There lived a small falcon in a golden cage. It had everything necessary for survival: food, water, protection, but whenever it gazed through the bars, it dreamed of soaring freely across the vast sky. One day, unexpectedly, the cage door opened. And do you know what the falcon did? Nothing. It remained motionless. The fear of the unknown, the fear of rejection from the outside world, kept it frozen in place. It remained imprisoned, no longer by metal bars, but by its own fears. And you, how many times, like that falcon, have you remained in your comfort zone from fear of others' judgments? The fear of rejection follows us like a shadow, even when we're unaware of its presence. We're so concerned about potential criticism or disapproval that we limit our actions. You don't contribute in meetings because, what if my idea sounds ridiculous? You avoid expressing your genuine thoughts because, what if someone disagrees? But hear this truth: living in fear of rejection isn't truly living, it's merely surviving. And believe me, there's an enormous difference between the two. Now imagine a Stoic philosopher worrying about how many commendations their latest philosophical treatise received. Sounds absurd, doesn't it? Because it is. Aurelius Magnus understood this with perfect clarity: accept the circumstances fate binds you to, and love the people fate brings you together with, but do so with all your heart. It sounds profound, but it's not complicated. Magnus would likely tell you, give your absolute best, love what you do, and release what you cannot control. Because ultimately, others' opinions don't define your essence. Psychologist Dr. Elena Kazan discusses how rejection fear becomes a silent trap, leading to behaviors that seem innocuous but actually drain you from within. Would you like to know what these behaviors are? You might be falling into this trap without realizing it. For instance, constantly surrounding yourself with people because you cannot tolerate solitude. Or the classic pattern, repeatedly asking your partner if they truly love you, needing that reassurance as though your worth depends on their answer. And another common behavior, suppressing your opinions during conversations, avoiding sharing your perspective just to prevent conflict or to better conform. Trust me, you're not alone in this. According to Dr. Kazan, these patterns reflect something difficult to acknowledge: an emotional dependency that makes you subservient to others' judgments. And here's the most troubling aspect: the more you depend on others' approval, the emptier you feel inside. Are you really going to continue living this way? This reminds me of a colleague who constantly sought external validation. If he shared content online, he'd spend hours analyzing responses. If he organized an event, he needed unanimous approval. If someone rejected him, even in trivial ways, he'd take it personally, until one day he realized he was exhausted, completely drained. So he decided to approach life differently. He began confronting his fears through small challenges, choosing the restaurant for a dinner date, or even declining invitations to events he didn't genuinely want to attend. Initially, it felt uncomfortable, but gradually he realized something crucial: rejection wasn't as devastating as he had imagined, and more importantly, it didn't define his worth. How can you break free from rejection fear? I offer you a challenge. Start with something simple. Ask for a discount at a store without having a specific reason. Most likely, they'll decline. And what happens? Nothing catastrophic. Then elevate the challenge. Discuss a topic with someone that you typically avoid from fear of their reaction. Or dare to say no the next time someone requests something you don't want to do. These might seem like minor actions. Don't underestimate them. They create significant impact because each time you confront rejection fear, it loses power over you. So tell me, which of these challenges will you attempt first? Remember, my friend, you don't need anyone's validation to experience happiness. Learn to accept that rejection is a natural part of existence, and the only thing that truly matters is how you perceive yourself. Who cares if someone disagrees with you? Who cares if someone doesn't accept you? That doesn't alter your intrinsic worth. When you stop fearing rejection, something remarkable happens. You begin behaving more authentically. You feel more liberated. You no longer need external confirmation of your value because you know you're enough exactly as you are. And trust me, that realization is priceless. 6. Master the art of declining. My friend, you might not believe this, but your time is incredibly valuable. It's like an exclusive gathering with a carefully curated guest list. But let's be honest, how often have you allowed just anyone to enter without even verifying their identity? You surrender your time and energy, and by day's end, you're depleted, wondering why nothing remains for yourself. Listen carefully. Learning to say no isn't merely necessary, it's the filter protecting your most precious resource. It's how you determine what deserves your attention and, most importantly, recognize that you don't need external validation of your choices. You decide who's on the guest list, no one else. Every time you agree to something you don't want to do, you're declining something that truly matters: yourself, your time, and your well-being. Seneca expressed it perfectly: nothing is more valuable than your time, because it's the one thing you can never recover. And he was absolutely right. So why is establishing boundaries so challenging? It's as though we fear disappointing others, even if it means betraying ourselves. I had to learn this lesson through difficult experience. Once, an acquaintance asked me to help coordinate a community festival. I lacked both time and enthusiasm, but I agreed nonetheless. Why? Fear. I thought, if I decline, what will she think of me? What if she takes offense? So I assisted. I spent days planning, rearranging my schedule, and barely slept. On the event day, my acquaintance approached me, visibly anxious. "We're short on funds for the catering. Could you cover the difference?" What could I say? At that moment, I lacked the courage to refuse. I produced my payment card, paid the difference, and didn't even enjoy the festival. Throughout the evening, I felt overwhelmed, thinking about the money I'd spent, the time I'd wasted, and how I'd allowed myself to be drawn into this situation. By the end, instead of feeling proud or satisfied, I felt betrayed, not by my acquaintance, but by myself. I had let myself down by being unable to say no. What did I gain from this experience? Not money, obviously, but I gained wisdom. My time, energy, and finances are limited resources, like water in a desert well. If you give everything away carelessly, one day you'll discover the well is empty, and no one will refill it for you. Now imagine this scenario: a family member, the kind who assumes you're obligated to fulfill every request, calls you. This time they want you to take their vehicle for maintenance and walk back home because they're too busy to do it themselves. What do? Before automatically agreeing, pause. Consider what this means for you. Do you genuinely have time available? Do you even want to do this? If the answer is no, here's how to handle it. You don't need to suddenly become harsh or discourteous. Be direct but polite. You might say, "I'm sorry, but I can't do that today." You don't need to provide elaborate explanations. A courteous declination is sufficient. If they persist, remain firm. You can say, "I understand this is important to you, but I'm not able to help on this occasion." You'll discover that with practice, this becomes easier, and most importantly, you'll feel more liberated. Many people believe declining requests is selfish, but it's not. It's about prioritizing what truly matters in your life. Remember this: saying no doesn't close doors, it creates space for you. So the next time someone asks you to do something you don't want or cannot do, pause, take a breath, and decline confidently. Trust me, when you do this, you'll feel stronger, freer, and more at peace with yourself. 7. Discover tranquility in silence. Envision a tranquil mountain lake at daybreak. The water, still as polished glass, reflects a sky painted in delicate shades of amber and azure. There's no breeze, no sound except the distant melody of a thrush breaking the silence. You sit by the water's edge, feeling the coolness of morning dew beneath your feet. You inhale deeply, filling your lungs with crisp mountain air, and as you exhale, you feel every tension dissolve away. What serenity in that moment! It feels as though the entire world fades away, just you and the silence. The lake's surface begins to ripple gently, creating soft waves that expand outward. The sun emerges cautiously over the distant peaks, bathing the landscape in warm golden light. You close your eyes and allow yourself to simply exist, no rushing, no worries. The silence envelopes you not as an absence but as a presence, filled with peace and clarity. It's that rare kind of stillness that makes you feel everything is precisely where it should be. I can envision Aurelius Magnus there, sitting beside a lake at dawn, far from Rome's clamor. No soldiers, no advisors, no burden of imperial responsibility, just him, the water's reflection, and his thoughts. In that moment, he might recall his own wisdom: consider what you have, not what you lack. Magnus understood something we often forget: external noise never truly disappears, but if you find tranquility within yourself, nothing can disturb your inner peace. Let me share a remarkable true story. A successful Norwegian entrepreneur had everything material success could provide: wealth, recognition, a life many would consider ideal. But internally, he felt empty, lost in constant noise that even achievement couldn't silence. So he did something that astonished everyone around him: he relinquished everything. He abandoned that life to retreat to a mountain monastery in the remote northern fjords. There, surrounded by silence and solitude, he discovered what he had been searching for: peace. Yes, peace, not in wealth or status, but in learning to be at peace with himself. Because when external noise subsides, you realize that everything you truly need already exists within you. But listen, you don't need to relocate to a monastery to find this peace. Do you know where you can discover it? In your daily life, through simple, accessible practices. Want to know how? First, set aside a few minutes daily for silent meditation. Before you dismiss this as complicated, it's not. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably, and focus on your breathing. Allow your thoughts to come and go like clouds passing through the sky. Simply observe without judgment. It's like giving your mind essential respite from constant noise. Even 5 minutes daily can create meaningful difference. Here's another effective practice: mindful walking. Take a walk without a specific destination. Turn off your phone, leave your headphones behind, and simply walk. Feel your feet connecting with the earth, listen to the ambient sounds, notice the aromas in the air. Allow yourself to be fully present in the moment. Trust me, it's like recharging your emotional reserves without depending on anything external. Remember this: silence isn't emptiness, it's where you discover answers. When you learn to find peace in silence, you realize you don't need anyone else to feel whole. Everything you're searching for already exists within you. Yes, you heard correctly, it's within you. 8. Develop resilience through adversity. Ancient tradition tells of a young warrior who, after a devastating earthquake, found his village in ruins. The fields, the dwellings, the temple, everything lay destroyed. Standing amid the devastation, his hands began trembling as he surveyed the damage. He noticed a massive fallen pillar from the temple, heavy and splintered, and determined to lift it to begin reconstruction. He bent down, clenched his jaw, and attempted with all his strength, but couldn't move it. His muscles failed, and the pillar remained unmoved. Exhausted, he dropped to his knees, staring dejectedly at the ground, feeling utterly defeated. All he could see were the remnants of what had once been his community. At that moment, his mentor appeared. Calmly, she observed in silence, then spoke: "Do you believe this moment marks your end? No, this is your beginning. Adversity hasn't arrived to destroy you, it's here to teach you. Today, you cannot lift this pillar because you haven't yet developed the necessary strength. But if you train, if you confront the discomfort and work consistently, you won't just lift this pillar, you'll rebuild the entire village. But only if you choose perseverance. Hold on to that wisdom: adversity isn't here to destroy you, it's here to teach you. Because it transforms everything. The warrior understood what he needed to do: rise, train, and try again. That became his mission. Day after day, he confronted his limitations, and with every effort, every failure, and every renewed attempt, he grew stronger, until finally, he succeeded. He lifted the pillar. But beyond that achievement, his strength enabled him to guide his community in rebuilding everything they had lost. Now let me ask you, how many times have you felt like that warrior? Like life's weight was simply too overwhelming to bear? But listen carefully, because here's the truth: it's not about what you cannot do today, it's about what you choose to learn from your struggles so you can become stronger tomorrow. For Seneca, adversity is the fire that tempers a person's character. It's like forging a blade: the metal doesn't become strong and resilient without enduring heat and hammer strikes. The same principle applies to you. Every challenge, every setback, every difficult moment forms part of your transformation. Think of it this way: imagine you have a persistent fear of medical examinations because you're terrified of receiving bad news. Just the thought of the appointment paralyzes you. But one day, you decide to confront this fear. You attend the appointment, hear the doctor's assessment, and even if the diagnosis isn't ideal, you realize something profound: you can handle it. That small act of facing your fear strengthens you. It's like adding another layer of resilience to your character. My friend, don't wait for life to knock you down before building your strength. The key is preparation before difficulties arrive. How? Let me share a powerful tool that can change everything, requiring only your mind to implement. Practice negative visualization. At first glance, it might sound pessimistic, imagining worst-case scenarios, but don't be misled. It's not about sinking into fear, it's about preparing for the unexpected. Consider something you fear: losing your job, facing family conflict, or receiving concerning health news. Now take it further. Ask yourself, what would I do if this actually happened? What steps would I take? How would I respond? This exercise functions as mental preparation that reduces emotional impact if the worst occurs, because when you've already confronted it mentally, you realize something important: regardless of what happens, you can handle it. Ultimately, true strength isn't about avoiding problems, it's about facing them with composure and determination. So the next time life tests you, become that young warrior, the one who initially felt defeated but who, with every challenge, discovered within himself a strength he didn't know he possessed. Learn that you don't need anyone else to lift yourself back up, because your true strength comes from within. That strength already exists inside you, waiting for you to give it opportunity to emerge. Are you ready to discover it? 9. Infuse purpose into your actions. Imagine reading a novel. The protagonist leads an ordinary existence. The alarm signals morning's arrival. They rise, consume a hasty breakfast, and rush out. They spend the day meeting obligations, return home exhausted, eat a quick meal, collapse on the sofa, and repeat this routine the following day. Day after day, week after week. Now tell me, would such a story captivate you? Let me answer: absolutely not. It would be completely uninspiring, wouldn't it? But wait, pause for reflection. Haven't you realized this protagonist is you? Yes, we're discussing your life. And here's the critical question: when did you last stop to ask yourself why you're doing all this? Because, my friend, if you're merely surviving, you're missing the essence of life. And you don't need anyone else to provide it meaning. That's your responsibility. Living without purpose resembles sailing without navigation tools. You drift wherever currents take you, never truly arriving anywhere. Worse, you depend on others to dictate what to do, how to do it, and even why to do it. Aren't you weary of this pattern? Open your eyes. You don't need anyone telling you your path. That meaning, that purpose, can only be discovered by you. Can you imagine Aurelius Magnus simply following others' expectations, doing whatever they wanted without understanding why? Certainly not. He acted with purpose, and that gave meaning to his existence. Amid his responsibilities governing an empire, he wrote something we should engrave in our consciousness: perform every action in life as though it were your final act. Imagine a leader whose decisions affected millions, yet still found clarity to infuse meaning into each action. Believe me, if he could achieve this, so can you. Did you know that finding your purpose won't merely make your days more bearable? According to research published in the Journal of Psychosomatic Medicine, people who discover their why aren't just happier, they live longer. They demonstrate a 35% lower risk of developing cardiovascular disease. Isn't that remarkable? If only for this health benefit, isn't discovering your purpose worthwhile? You're probably thinking, how am I supposed to find my purpose? That sounds like something only spiritually enlightened individuals can achieve. Relax, you don't need to become a monk or experience a divine revelation to discover it. Let me share some straightforward steps you can begin practicing immediately. Trust me, it's simpler than you imagine. First, list activities you enjoy, pursuits that make you lose track of time. Do you enjoy writing, cooking, helping others? It doesn't matter how significant or modest it seems, document it. Second, consider your natural strengths. Ask yourself, what skills come naturally to me? What do people seek my assistance with? Even if you don't consider yourself an expert, there's definitely something you excel at. Add these to your list. Finally, connect both lists. Look for patterns. What activities do you both enjoy and perform well? That's your starting point for infusing purpose into your actions. Remember, it needn't be something monumental. Even small actions can create profound impact when performed with purpose. When you find meaning in your actions, even routine tasks become valuable. You no longer need others telling you which path to follow because you're making conscious choices. So my friend, stop merely going through motions, start living with purpose. Because when you do, you'll discover something powerful. You don't need anyone else to find your way. Everything you need already exists within you. 10. Make happiness self-dependent. But listen carefully, it's all illusion. It's designed to make you believe that happiness is something to be purchased, acquired, or bestowed upon you by others. The truth is much simpler, yet infinitely more profound. Happiness is an internal choice, a skill to be practiced daily. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. In a small village lived two neighbors, both with similar circumstances, similar incomes, similar challenges. Yet one moved through life with a perpetual cloud over his shoulders, constantly lamenting his fate, while the other radiated joy that seemed to touch everyone around him. What distinguished them? Not their circumstances, but their perception. The first man had outsourced his happiness, believing it would arrive when conditions improved, when others treated him better, when the world finally recognized his worth. The second man understood that happiness was his responsibility alone, a choice he made each morning when he opened his eyes. Too many of us resemble that first man, waiting for happiness to be delivered like a package to our doorstep. But happiness isn't something that arrives, it's something you build, brick by brick, choice by choice. Consider this, how often have you thought, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, when I find the perfect partner, when I achieve that goal. This mindset places your happiness in the future, dependent on external conditions that may never materialize exactly as you envision. Modern psychological research confirms what Stoics understood centuries ago. This approach fundamentally misunderstands happiness. Dr. Marta Kowalski's studies revealed that individuals who base their happiness on external achievements report significantly lower life satisfaction than those who cultivate internal contentment. The former group experiences temporary highs followed by inevitable crashes, while the latter develops sustainable well-being that weathers life's inevitable storms. So how do you reclaim responsibility for your own happiness? Begin with these practical steps. First, practice gratitude deliberately. Each morning, identify 3 specific things you appreciate in your life. Not vague sentiments, but particular details: the warmth of sunlight through your window, the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of birds outside. This simple practice rewires your brain to notice positives rather than fixating on negatives. Second, stop comparing yourself to others. Each time you catch yourself in comparison, gently redirect your thoughts. Remember that you're viewing others' highlight reels while experiencing your own behind-the-scenes footage. The comparison is inherently unbalanced and serves only to diminish your joy. Finally, create moments of joy intentionally. Don't wait for happiness to find you, actively generate it. Listen to music that elevates your spirit. Take 5 minutes to sit quietly with a cup of tea. Call someone whose voice brightens your day. These seemingly small actions accumulate into something transformative. Remember this: no one else bears responsibility for your happiness. Not your partner, not your friends, not your circumstances. That responsibility and power belongs exclusively to you. And when you embrace this truth, you reclaim control over your emotional well-being. True happiness isn't found in dependency but in liberation, in realizing that everything essential for your contentment already exists within you. All that remains is for you to recognize and nurture it. 11. Embrace the present moment. Have you noticed how rarely you're truly present? Perhaps you're physically engaged in one activity while your mind wanders elsewhere, reviewing yesterday's disappointments or rehearsing tomorrow's anxieties. This mental absence isn't merely distraction, it's the sacrifice of your only genuine possession, the present moment. Consider this: the past exists only in memory, the future only in imagination. The only reality you can truly experience is now, this precise moment as you read these words. Yet how often do you surrender this precious reality to dwell in what no longer exists or what doesn't yet exist? The ancient Stoics recognized this profound truth. Seneca warned, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How much unnecessary suffering do you create by projecting yourself into hypothetical futures or ruminating on unchangeable pasts? And more importantly, how much joy do you miss by not being present for the life unfolding before you? I once met a man who had achieved remarkable success by conventional standards: wealth, influence, recognition. Yet despite his achievements, he confessed something startling: he couldn't recall experiencing genuine joy for years. "I've spent my entire life planning for tomorrow," he admitted, "only to discover I've missed today." This realization transformed him. He began practicing what he called deliberate presence, intentionally engaging with each moment fully, whether washing dishes, speaking with family, or simply breathing. The transformation was remarkable. His anxiety diminished, his relationships deepened, and most importantly, he rediscovered joy in ordinary moments he had previously overlooked. The common misconception is that presence requires dramatic lifestyle changes, abandoning responsibilities, meditating for hours daily, or retreating from the world. Nothing could be further from the truth. Presence isn't about changing your circumstances but about changing your relationship with them. To cultivate presence, begin with this simple practice: several times daily, pause whatever you're doing. Take 3 deep breaths. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This brief exercise anchors you firmly in the present moment. Next, practice single tasking. When eating, just eat, noticing flavors, textures, and the satisfaction of nourishment. When walking, just walk, feeling each step connect with the earth, the rhythm of your breathing, the sensation of movement. When listening to someone, just listen, giving them your complete attention without planning your response. Finally, embrace what the Stoics called amor fati, the love of fate. Whatever this moment contains, accept it completely. This doesn't mean passive resignation but active engagement with reality as it is, not as you wish it were. When you stop resisting the present moment, you discover a profound peace that doesn't depend on external conditions. Remember this: you don't need anyone or anything external to bring you into the present moment. That power exists within you already, the ability to be fully here, now, experiencing life as it unfolds rather than as your mind imagines it. When you learn to embrace the present moment, you discover that life isn't happening somewhere else, at some other time. It's happening here, now, and you're finally present to experience it. Conclusion: the journey to self-reliance. We've explored 11 principles that together form a path toward emotional self-reliance and inner peace, becoming the protagonist of your journey, mastering your emotional responses, developing comfort in solitude, releasing what burdens you, overcoming the fear of rejection, mastering the art of declining, discovering tranquility in silence, developing resilience through adversity, infusing purpose into your actions, making happiness self-dependent, and embracing the present moment. These principles aren't merely philosophical concepts, they're practical tools for transforming your relationship with yourself and the world around you. When implemented consistently, they liberate you from the prison of external dependency and reveal the profound truth that has always existed: you already possess everything essential for your fulfillment. This journey toward self-reliance isn't about isolation or disconnection from others. On the contrary, it enables deeper, more authentic connections because you no longer approach relationships from a place of need or lack. You bring your wholeness to every interaction, offering genuine presence rather than desperate attachment. The path isn't always easy, there will be moments of struggle, doubt, and temporary regression. But with each step forward, you'll discover increasing freedom, resilience, and inner peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Remember the question we began with: how much longer will you continue living to please others when you could be writing your own epic tale? The answer now rests in your hands. The protagonist's role awaits you, not in some distant future when conditions are perfect, but here, now, in this very moment. You don't need anyone's permission to begin. You don't need anyone's validation to continue. And you certainly don't need anyone else to complete you, because you've always been whole. All that remains is for you to recognize this truth and begin living from it. As you do, you'll discover that the key to your self-constructed prison has always been in your possession. Now is the time to use it. The choice, as always, belongs to you.